Hi, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. I'm Elaine Christian with the City of West Palm Beach Office of Sustainability, and we are so excited to chat about climate change and your health today. If you have any questions during the presentation, please drop them in the chat box and we will have Q&A at the end. Keep in mind that if you like today's program, we have many more scheduled. You can always visit our webpage, wpb.org/green, to view our upcoming programs. I will also be sending out a follow-up email after today's presentation, which will include the recording in case you'd like to share it or watch it again. We have a very special guest speaker with us today, Dr. Katherine Toms with the Florida Clinicians for Climate Action. Katherine Toms is a public health-focused physician. She has experience building programs to reduce maternal and infant mortality by addressing health disparities. Through her work with Florida Clinicians for Climate Action, Dr. Toms advocates for equitable policies, promoting resilient communities, and informs the public and healthcare providers about the health effects of climate change. And now let's go ahead and transition to Dr. Katherine Toms to learn more about climate change and your health. I think you're muted.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen with you all. Hang on a second. Okay. Just went through this. Let's see.
If you click the present button in the top right, is that what you clicked last time?
Does that help? Are we getting there? Yay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. A little technically challenged there today. Hi, everybody. So I'm Katherine Toms, and I just wanted to thank you for having me here today to talk to you. It's exciting. So how did I get here? In 2019, I realized, or why am I advocating for health and climate change? So I realized in 2019 that the best way that I could protect women and children, which is the population that I focus on, was to educate clinicians, the public and lawmakers about the climate crisis and climate solutions. So since then, FCCA, or Florida Clinicians for Climate Action, has been a great facilitator, and I'm now working with Healthcare Without Harm to help Florida health systems become resilient and lead Florida in the transition to a just and clean energy society. So healthcare and sustainability professionals understand each other well. We speak the same language, just a different dialect. So for example, doctors treat patients for illnesses in the way that sustainability directors or people working in sustainability help communities adapt to climate change. But we both know that prevention and mitigation before disease or climate impacts occur lead to a much better outcome. You get healthy patients and a healthy world. So let me see. So FCC always works through an equity lens, and the climate crisis is called a threat multiplier. So what does this mean? Well, 40% of our health status is a result of positive or negative social and economic factors. So take a low-income outdoor worker, for example. He's more at risk for heat stress on hot days. If he has poor housing conditions and unreliable air conditioning, he's less prepared to go out in the heat the next day, and he's even more likely to be at risk. a lack of affordable health care means that that same worker is even more likely to have undiagnosed and untreated high blood pressure, asthma, or diabetes. And this puts them even more at risk for the health impacts due to the climate crisis. They are unevenly distributed among low-income and communities of color, as many of you in sustainability understand from the urban heat island effect and the work you've done with that. Okay, whoops. So, let me just do it this way. So these health impacts will worsen over time if we don't address climate change. So this is a mnemonic that we often use at FCCA. The worst impacts of the climate crisis can be avoided if we keep global warming under 1.5 degrees. And we can do this by reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 50% by the end of this decade, which means we have to reduce them globally by 7.6 degrees every year. We can do this by transitioning to renewable primary source fuels like wind, water, and solar. So this easy mnemonic is just heat wave, and as you guys have been looking, there are direct and indirect impacts of climate on our health. And we'll go through these a little bit more in detail in the next slides. So heat-related illnesses. Florida made headlines for record heat last March because it was the hottest March on record for 126 years. But this trend also stretches back far longer. Statewide temperature averages have been higher than normal for 57 out of the last 60 months. So as a result of this extreme heat, there have been more heat-related hospitalizations and ER visits. And as you can see from this diagram, heat-related, or sorry, in 2016, 2016 and 2020 tied for the hottest year on record. You can't really see it from the diagram, but last year tied with 2016, and the last 5 years were the hottest on record. So things are getting hotter. So who's at risk for heat-related illness? Everyone is at risk, but there are certain more vulnerable populations than others. So pregnant women, this is a group that I'm really concerned with. There was a landmark study that came out last year showing that, and the study encompassed 32 million births in the US. And it showed an association of air pollution and heat exposure with preterm birth and low birth weight, which are the two leading causes of infant mortality. People who live alone and people with physical or mental disabilities often need help from others to stay cool or hydrated, so they're at risk. Low income Black and Brown communities suffer from inequities, including the urban heat island effect, and those put them more at risk. And because of underperforming thermoregulation, kids and older people who often have pre-existing conditions are also vulnerable to heat. People who work or play outdoors, like construction workers, law enforcement, emergency management, and teen athletes are especially at risk. So this is a recent study that just came out this year that looked at 3 major cities in the US, Atlanta, Detroit, and Phoenix. And we know that the potential for critical infrastructure failures during extreme weather events is rising. And in fact, major electric grid failures, or what we call blackouts in the US, have increased by more than 60% over the recent 5 years. So this study used regional climate and building models to simulate indoor building temperature in the event of concurrent heat wave and waves and blackouts in these cities. It showed that with this scenario of both of those things happening at the same time, it exposed between 68% and 100% of the city's population to elevated risk of heat exhaustion or heat stroke. So the top, you take a look, the top part shows these blue areas where there's really no risk, and then it gradually increases to the yellow areas with some risk of heat exposure. The orange areas is possible risk of heat stroke and probable of heat exhaustion. And then the red means heat exhaustion is likely and heat stroke is possible. So this really drives home the fact that we need to be prepared for hotter, warmer days. So back to the heat mnemonic, the E in heat wave stands for exacerbation of heat and lung conditions. And this is aggravated by extreme heat and air pollution. Indoor air pollution, as well as outdoor air pollution, affects air quality. And it's known to cause or worsen lung health, including asthma and COPD, heart health, including heart attacks, stroke, and heart failure, and some types of cancer, including lung cancer. So recent studies have shown that more than 7 million deaths per year are attributed to air pollution. Air pollution is primarily the result of fossil fuel combustion released in our atmosphere through car tailpipes and power plants. The main molecules in air pollution are fine particulate matter, little tiny particles, nitrogen oxide, and ozone. They all damage the tissue in our organs. Air pollution is also caused by forest fires, which are becoming more frequent due to drought and high winds driven by the climate crisis. And finally, smoke from outdated practices like pre-harvesting sugarcane burden disproportionately harms low-income and communities of color in Palm Beach County in and around Belglade. So this is just a study that came out last year that showed a correlation between people who were exposed to air pollution over a longer term and an increased risk of death from COVID-19. I'm sure some of you have seen that study. It was in a lot of newspapers last year. So the A in the heat mnemonics stand for asthma and allergies. So those are also worsened by heat, air pollution, and warmer, wetter weather, which drive longer pollen seasons. They also make pollen more potent so that our immune system reacts more violently towards pollen. And as you can see from this graph from Climate Central, when we have more CO2 in the atmosphere, which is driven by burning of fossil fuels, we have more pollen. And you can see over the last years that, or in the next years, over the next century, we will see an incredible increase in pollen counts. So we'll see more hospital admissions and emergency room admissions and deaths due to asthma. So the T in the heat wave mnemonic stands for traumatic injury, which is also brought about by heat and extreme weather. Hang on a second. Hang on. Anyhow, when we have extreme weather like hurricanes, tornadoes, and long heat waves, that impacts people by increasing death and injury, as well as emotional stress from these events. So, oops. Okay, waterborne illnesses is the W in the heat wave mnemonic. So we're seeing an increase in waterborne illnesses due to climate change. And one of the members of Florida Clinicians for Climate Action is infectious disease specialist, and she lost her son due to a rare brain-eating amoeba caused by the amoeba named Naegeli-Fowleri meningitis, or the disease is meningitis. It's a lot like bacterial meningitis, and they use the mnemonic PAM for short. So you find this in fresh water, even in swimming pools, because this amoeba thrives in warmer water. So as our water, especially our fresh water, warms, we are going to see this infection more often. It is 99% fatal, and it's 100% preventable if you take the necessary precautions, like wearing a nose clip when you swim in fresh water, and trying to keep it from going in your nose, ensuring that pools and potable water are properly chlorinated, and also making sure if you use a neti pot that you use sterilized water. So foodborne illnesses will also increase as our planet warms. So bacteria like Vibrio, there are different kinds of Vibrio. They thrive in brackish estuaries and salt water. And as these waters warm, more and more parts of the US, and especially around Florida, we'll see more incidences of this bacterial infection. It acts as a flesh-eating bacteria, but we can also get diarrheal disease from it, gastrointestinal disease from it, and we can also get infection of our bloodstream, a septic shock that can be fatal. So there's a need to pay attention in the Department of Health for elevation of this bacteria in brackish water. Fishermen and people who work in restaurants, of course, are at risk because it gets through it infects through broken cuts in the skin. So this is interesting, but it's also a little scary when you realize that in 2019, an entomologist at the University of Florida named Larry Reeves discovered a new species of mosquito living in Florida, first in the Everglades. And this mosquito can carry yellow fever and Venezuelan equine encephalitis. And it's endemic to South America, Brazil, and other countries in South America. Its name is Aedes scapularis, like our scapula on the back of our, on our back. It's a vector of zoonotic disease because this mosquito feeds both on birds and animals. So very much in the way that we saw COVID jump from bats to humans, this could happen with this particular vector. And then in a follow-up study that Dr. Reeves did, he found that the species was well established in Miami-Dade and Broward counties. And you can only imagine that the patterns of these mosquitoes moves up from south to north. So this is something that Palm Beach County should be looking towards too. And then there's another invasive species of mosquito, Aedes aegypti, which is everywhere in Florida and throughout the Southeast. It's a mosquito that feeds during the day, and it carries things like Zika, chikungunya, and dengue fever. And this mosquito is well adapted to urban environments. So it's not just around the Everglades and things like that. And the last thing that impacts us that we're actually paying more and more interest to is the impacts of climate change on our mental well-being. Things like heat and extreme weather have been shown to increase emotional stress, leading to both depression and anxiety, as well as PTSD. This photo was taken in the aftermath of Hurricane Michael in the Panhandle, and you can imagine the stress that these people were under when they lost their homes. We also saw a sharp increase in mental illness after Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico and Dorian in the Bahamas 2 years ago. Heat also threatens the health of people with even more severe mental illness like schizophrenia, especially because many of the medications that they take to keep their illness in check impairs their thermoregulation and the body's way of maintaining a constant core temperature. And in addition to mental illness, hurricanes and tornadoes and these sort of catastrophic weather-related events also put our health at risk because they interrupt our everyday lives, and people who have chronic illnesses suddenly aren't able to access their medications, so they can quickly become ill. So moving on to solutions, because I want you all to have a chance to ask questions and talk. The main thing that I want to say is collaborate, 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 because this is an unprecedented event, the climate crisis. So we need to take unprecedented action. So one of the things that I've been working with is a new program that a colleague of mine, Melissa Baldwin, and I are doing in cooperation with the Florida Institute for Health Innovation. This program is called the Florida Environmental Health Hazard Hub. It's built off the Hurricane Hazard Hub that they developed a few years back. It will be an online open access resource with information and tools about water quality, air quality, and climate in general. And there'll be tools that will help organizations characterize and access or assess environmental hazards and health outcomes through existing data and existing programs, which can be recommended to people that are interested in them. The hub will strengthen networks and share resources and capabilities. And we're planning convening either online or live later this fall. So we'll keep you updated on that. And then just recently, May 28th, it's the fourth Friday every May is National Heat Awareness Day, and Miami and Miami-Dade, both mayors, and the Rockefeller Center, and especially the Women's Fund of Miami-Dade collaborated to bring about a heat awareness campaign. And this is one of their billboards. You'll probably be seeing them. Really, if everybody can remember to somehow stay cool in air conditioning, or taking cool showers if you don't have access, or going to cooling stations and drinking plenty of water, we can avoid 100% of heat related illnesses and death. So getting the information out there to the public, especially vulnerable populations like pregnant women, the woman in the picture, we can all work together to keep illness from happening. Then, then let me see. Oh, another thing, there is an urban heat research group that meets online every month, and it's an organization of researchers and nonprofit groups. And you're more than welcome to join that. If you'd like to, I'd be happy to connect you. That's a way to sort of keep track of what's going on. We've also worked with the Chief Hevia of the emergency response team in Miami to bring heat awareness about. So we'll be working on this, or Miami-Dade will be working on it, not me necessarily, for the next year or so. And finally, this is a project that's near and dear to my heart. It's called Green Cars for Kids. It provides free transportation exclusively with electric vehicles to healthcare services, to provide healthcare services for children and expectant mothers who have limited or no transportation. It's modeled after a very successful program, Kid One, which is in Alabama and has been serving families for 24 years. So planning is underway right now with the City of St. Pete in coalition with partners from various sectors of St. Petersburg, the Office of Sustainability, All Children's Hospital, Duke Power, the Southern Alliance for Clean Energy, and EV Hybrid Noir, and other community organizations. This program could possibly be a good fit for West Palm Beach as well, because it addresses two major challenges. One is a high percentage of outpatient no-shows. This results in lost revenue for hospitals, as well as poor health outcomes for kids and pregnant women especially. Hospitals in the West Palm area could be possibly the Cleveland Clinic, the Good Samaritan Hospital, St. Mary's, or NYU Langone. The second challenge that this addresses is that our current transportation system is fueled by gasoline, and we need to rapidly electrify transportation in Florida and the US to meet our IPCC carbon reduction goals. So the transportation sector in the US accounts for 30% of greenhouse gas emissions. And there was a study recently in Miami-Dade that showed transportation accounts for 55% of their greenhouse gas emissions. And West Palm Beach is probably somewhere in between. I don't know if you all have done an assessment of greenhouse gases, but I would imagine it's somewhere in between those two numbers. So Green Cars for Kids collaborates with local utilities, municipalities to expand EV charging infrastructure in hospitals and in the public setting. And Green Cars for Kids, I think, is terrific because it can catalyze the urgent transition to transportation electrification by showing our communities that driving electric is affordable, doable, and really better. Then my last slide is maybe just to open up a discussion. I really like this quote from Stacey Abrams: show up, speak up, and stand up. So our legislators, especially at the state level, I believe, have made a terrible mistake in legislation. Think about the recent preemption bills that have passed now in the last session. I really think that they love their families and their neighbors like we all do. And I think that if they were fully informed, they would act on the crisis, the climate crisis, with urgency to protect them. So with the expertise of all the people on the call, I think it's essential to provide these lawmakers with the evidence-based information and understanding that you can provide. And these are just a couple of other ideas about partnering. I can imagine that you all in the Office of Sustainability are already doing collaboration or partnering, and I'd like to hear more about what you're doing. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Toms. Our audience today is mostly, just residents in our West Palm Beach area. But I have seen some questions come through. And before I get to that, I just want to quickly share something that we have going on that can actually help with that heat issue. So we actually have a native tree giveaway that's on June 24th. And trees are so, I could spend hours talking about the benefits of trees, but this is one way that you can help bring down the heat in the city of West Palm Beach or wherever you are. But our tree giveaway though is specific for city of West Palm Beach residents and businesses. So I know a lot of people, may not have access to or be able to, I should say, run their air conditioning all the time. And that's something that, if you plant a tree, you're helping bring down the temperature in your area. So definitely something to look into. We have trees of all varying sizes. So depending on your space that you have available, we can get a tree for you. So if you're a City of West Palm Beach resident or business, definitely go to our website there to look at the tree options. And I will stop my share. So I think, let's see here. So we had a question about the monthly forum. Do you have any contact info for the monthly forum? Is it the Extreme Heat Resilience Alliance?
It's an urban heat research group. There is a alliance too that's just starting out, and I can get both of those to you and you can get that out to the public. I'll email it to you.
Okay. Everyone who registered today, whatever email you use to register, we'll send a follow-up email to that address after today's presentation. So I'll include any additional information from Dr. Toms. Had another question. What is the connection between urban heat and mental health?
Right. Maybe I was too quick and didn't completely explain the urban heat island effect. So that is, there's been a documented difference in heat or high temperatures, especially in the summer, between urban areas and suburban areas that have more tree cover and more water and better building, more weatherized buildings, things like that. And if you just look around, even in West Palm or Miami, you see a difference in that tree cover primarily. And that is often in line with redlined areas that were historically redlined and weren't able to get low interest mortgages back in the 30s and 40s. So this is a historical inequity that has made it so that people that live in urban areas often suffer from higher temperatures and the health effects of that, including mental health issues. So there have been studies that have shown that during heat waves and hotter days, that there's more violence, including intimate partner violence, interpersonal violence, and murder, in fact, theft. And you just think about when you're hot, you're a little irritable. So that contributes to it. And if you have other stressors, other social determinants of health, then that can even be worsened through the urban heat island effect. And so people suffer from depression and anxiety at higher rates in those metropolitan areas.
Definitely. And we have completed an urban tree canopy assessment and heat assessment in the city of West Palm Beach. So we're working to increase the tree canopy in our city. So we understand that there are really hot areas. And so we're definitely trying to bring that temperature down. And even our nighttime temperatures, if you think about it used to be cooler and at night, and now we're not seeing those temperatures. We're not getting that period of where we have the cooler nighttime so that we can kind of, in a way, cool off. So, that's definitely affecting us as well.
Well, that you reminded me when you said that, in just like the urban areas really need that cool nighttime temperature to be resilient for the next day and be cooler the next day. Our bodies are exactly the same way. So especially farm workers, construction workers, everybody who works or plays outside, it might be a good idea if they aren't able to cool down efficiently during the day to take a cool shower at night before they go to bed. It's sort of an extra way to sort of help your body get down to that cool point.
Definitely. And I believe so. It was released, I think, in the Post today that May was the hottest May on record in the city of West Palm Beach. So heat is just such it's such an issue and such an important topic that we need to be talking about and finding solutions for. So I don't see any other questions. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat. I'll give it another few seconds or so here.
Well, while you're looking, I can also just talk a little bit more about how to address that, through the working together, collaborating with these awareness campaigns are important, but you all do this. And I know you've done a great job with planting your trees because you not only just planted them, you really researched about how they're going to be maintained, the easier to maintain, and the right soil and the right drainage, so that you didn't plant them and they would die, because that's the waste of taxpayer money. So kudos to West Palm Beach for really doing your research. That's so important. And yeah, things like asphalt roofs. And the study showed from the Chicago heat wave in '95 that people who died during that were elderly, low income people who lived in the top floor of multi-family housing with asphalt roofs. So having green roofs or white reflectant paint on roofs is less expensive and easier to maintain. It really reduces the chance that those people are going to get sick and even die. So the simple measures like that, that's not a really costly step. Or maybe having building codes so that new buildings don't have darker roofs. That would be really important. And building codes also to reduce greenhouse gases, building codes, or any kind of incentives so that you can electrify homes and apartment buildings rather than running kitchens and gas stoves on natural gas, because that contributes a lot to indoor air pollution. It's harmful for anybody breathing that. It's the same pollution that we monitor outside at the airport isn't monitored inside. So if you do have a gas stove, even if it's noisy, which we didn't turn ours on until I became aware of this, run your exhaust fan and make sure it vents to the outside. If you don't have an exhaust fan, open your windows. And if you can afford it, go ahead and get an electric stove or one of the really cool, what are they called? The ones that heat up higher, convection.
Yep.
Stoves. Conduction, that's what I wanted to say. There you go.
And are there a lot of clinicians in West Palm Beach that belong to your group?
Yeah, there are some. Our co-founder, Dr. Ankush Banzal, is very active and has done great things, also advocating for policies that help improve our health and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. He's been doing that for years, as well as Dr. Cheryl Holder. She's in Miami, but Ankush is in Delray Beach, where I am. So
very close. I see a question too. Do I need permission from my HOA to plant a tree in my front yard? Probably. But it really depends on your HOA and what rules you have. So I would definitely just look that over before you go and plant, because they may have certain guidelines that you need to follow. I know for my HOA, they're very, very specific about wanting to know, specifically what plant I'm planting. It has to be native. It can only be in certain areas in front of my house or even behind my house. I have very specific parameters. So, something just to check, but I would definitely follow up with your HOA beforehand, because I know I've seen instances where they have made people remove the plants, even after they've been established. So just check that out.
Elaine, I had one question. You probably know this more than I or know where. I think the University of Florida has a website, but I think if you're going to be planting more trees for shade to shade your homes or your apartments, I think, and investing in that, I think it's also a good idea to go ahead and invest in prevention, in mitigation, by planting a tree that is a good sequester of CO2. And I do know native trees, a banyan tree isn't native, is it? But ficus trees, live oaks are native. Live oaks are some of the best sequesters. So go for a live oak.
And we do offer live oaks through the city of West Palm Beach. So you can actually get up to 4 free trees from the city of West Palm Beach every year. So definitely, again, just something to look at. And the best place to plant a tree is going to be on the south and west side of your house to provide the most shade. So you want to think about where the sun is really hitting your home, and where that heat is coming in, because I know I'm sure everyone else can feel it, but I can certainly feel it because a lot of my windows are on those sides, and I feel that heat coming in. So definitely, looking at how you can shade your home, or even use of curtains or whatever it may be to keep the heat out, because then you have to think about you're having to run your air conditioner longer as well. So it's kind of a good trade-off there, and trees are producing fresh oxygen for us, so it's a win-win.
You reminded me of 2 things that really have to do with Palm Beach County. I'll name them quick. I'm in a group, Climate Reality Project, BOCA, but it's for both Palm Beach County and North Broward. Anybody is invited to join, and if you connect through Elaine, I can give you an invitation. But we are going to be hosting, maybe in West Palm, if you all want to do it with us, an event that coincides with National Drive Electric Day, where we will all bring anybody who wants an electric car of different makes and models, different price ranges, so that you can talk to us about them and learn about them. If you're interested, maybe even you can sit in it, maybe even drive around. We don't know exactly how this is going to be, but we are going to be doing that in the area, and that's the October 2nd. So we will get that information out through Climate Reality Project BOCA. And then there was one more thing I was going to suggest with something going on, but now I forgot. So any other questions if I think of it?
With for Drive Electric Week, we've been doing events for a few years now, and we've been holding them at the Palm Beach Zoo. And last year, or not last year, I'm sorry, the last time we had the event, which was not last year, I think it was the year before, just due to the pandemic. But it was really, really successful. We had lots of vehicles that came out. We invited people, private owners, they had their personal vehicles that they brought out so that people could just see what's out there, what's on the market. And just being able to talk to an EV owner and discussing if you have any concerns, you can discuss that with them. And SACE, Southern Alliance for Clean Energy, was out there with us as well, along with FPL. So we had some great partners, and we were able to test drive some cars. But again, with the pandemic, I know things have changed, so we will definitely see what we can do. But I would love to discuss that further with you, to see if we can maybe have that here in West Palm.
Absolutely. And anybody listening and you don't have an electric car, I have to say I have a Nissan Leaf. once you go electric, you'll never go back. It's a better choice. Try it. You'll like it, is all I can say. Oh, the other thing I was going to say is the Solar United Neighbors Co-op for Palm Beach County may still be open, and you can get a very good price for very quality rooftop solar installation. So contact solarunitedneighbors.org to inquire about that. We're getting it on our roof, so join us, and I can tell you about the whole process if you want to ask any questions, and everybody else who's on the co-op, I'm sure will be happy to share.
And we do, just back to electric vehicles, we do have free charging for electric vehicles in our city garages. So a little incentive there maybe to go get one, because I know sometimes that's a concern of where exactly you're going to charge, how long you're going to be able to drive on a charge. You know, we have that range anxiety sometimes. So the free charging is definitely beneficial. And we did just do a program recently with Solar United Neighbors. So I have a direct contact there, and I know they have another informational session in June. I want to say June 13th, but I'm not 100% positive. So I'll double check that. But again, I'll send information with the follow-up email on that. So I'll link everyone together. And I don't see any other questions. Dr. Toms, is there anything that you would like to wrap up here for us?
I just want to say, don't be shy. Be bold about what you do. Talk with your friends, talk with your neighbors about the benefits of clean energy, and you know, call FP&L if that's something you want to talk, you know, want them to know that you want them. Right now, I think 78 or almost 80% of their energy is from fossil fuels, a mix of coal, but primarily natural gas, methane gas, which is a very potent greenhouse gas emitter. So it's a sunshine state. We should be, you know, surviving on solar energy. We can do it.
We can. Together we can make a difference. But even individually, don't think that individually you can't make a difference. But everyone on this call, you know, if you are on this webinar, if you start making some small changes and everyone else starts making some small changes, together we make a really big impact. So thank you all for joining us today. And thank you again, Dr. Toms, for being with us and sharing all of your knowledge. And I hope everyone has a great rest of your day and a great weekend.
Thank you. Thanks, Elaine.
Thank you. Bye.